the series finale, just ended a couple hours ago, and I'm still processing everything that has happened.
Yeah.
I'm not doing too well. How are you holding up there, Josh?
Well, I can see from your name, Dead Inside, and
Yes.
also mine, Heartbroken. And I'm wearing a shirt, 2 roses for the end of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So I just had to give props. It's I'm having a tough time, Andrew. This was 15 years of my life, and it's now over.
That's true. My God.
Yeah.
2008.
The end of an era. End of an era.
I started watching Breaking Bad in 2013. So I basically binged all of Breaking Bad after it ended. I watched it.
Okay.
I didn't watch Breaking Bad till it ended. So it hasn't been as long, time-wise, because I didn't start watching in 2008. Did you?
I got into it at the end of season 1. People were talking about how great it was, and I was like, I'll give it a chance. Okay. I loved Malcolm in the Middle, and I gave it a chance, and I just never stopped after that.
But yeah, you're right. It's like a piece of you is gone now that this show has ended.
Yeah, and you know what?
Take this shit so seriously.
Unlike the end of Breaking Bad, where you knew that there might be a something else on the horizon, but there's nothing. It seems like there's nothing else on the horizon.
No, it's over, and it probably should be over. I mean, when do you get you get a critically acclaimed show? In my opinion, Breaking Bad's the best show ever,
sure.
At least drama wise, and Better Call Saul is probably the second best show ever because they're really one and the same. But yeah, like, what are the chances you do this amazing show and then you do a spinoff? And it's like almost just as good as the original. Like it's still amazing. Like that never happens.
No, I mean, I love Game of Thrones, and they're about to have their own sequel or prequel. But like the end of Game of Thrones was trash. The end of Breaking Bad was amazing, and it just wanted you to. It just made you want to, watch Saul even more.
Right.
And it's a part of you, like you said, that's gone.
Saul was a fan favorite because he was like the funniest one in the show.
Yeah, and it was great because it kind of, you got to see more of those characters that you loved in Breaking Bad. You didn't get Walter White or Jesse Pinkman, but you got Mike.
Mike was also a beloved character, yeah.
Yes, yeah, and he was back in this episode too. I mean, like the only cameo that we didn't get was Gus. That was the only one.
No Gus. No Skylar, even though she was listed in the IMDb credits for this episode. But we got her sister, so
I was a shocker.
I read this interview. I think it's with Rolling Stone. I believe it was with Peter Gould, and they were asking him like, "Were there any other cameos that you wanted?" And he was like, "Well, we didn't want to like overstuff it. Obviously, I would love to have everyone, but we didn't want to overstuff it. But like with Marie, Mike, and Walter, it's like he's getting a visit from like the 3 ghosts, like."
Of Christmas past,
Christmas past, yeah, exactly.
Christmas present.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, kind of like it was.
I thought that was fun.
That's really like how it was.
Yeah.
You got Mike as the ghost of Christmas past.
Right.
And then oh my God, you even had Chuck. Chuck came back.
Yeah.
Oh, this episode just tugged on too many heartstrings.
I know.
And I just loved the face turn at the end. For
all the non-wrestling fans, Saul ended up doing the right thing. This is the most notes I've ever taken.
Oh God,
probably for anything we've done on Hogwash. It's so much.
It was a really, really good episode. You got this. You watched it a little bit later than I did, so I got to watch it a second time, and I still popped. I still popped it every single time I popped the first time. It was great. Like everything still landed. It was awesome.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start from the beginning of the episode. We actually I think we're going to review it like chronologically, like from how it was on the show.
Okay.
Because lately, back when there was Jimmy's story, then there was Mike's story and Gus's story. But this was all basically just Jimmy,
Jimmy being an asshole.
Jimmy. Well, yeah, for the most part. But so the series finale, the cold open is an extra scene from when Saul and Mike were stuck in the desert together. Was that season 4? Or was that season 5?
I can't remember. It was probably season 4.
It might have been 5.
I don't know.
Anyways, it's one of those.
Right.
And you recently rewatched the entire series.
Yeah.
That was when Lalo made.
This was when Lalo was
Jimmy.
caught. Yeah, and he had to go get the drug money to bail him out of jail.
Yeah, he made Jimmy go get the drug money.
Yeah. Oh my! And I should have known, but that car that we saw last episode was the one that Jimmy flipped over. His car that he went to go pick up the drug money.
Yeah.
So you remember how I was like, "Oh, Jimmy's gonna get in a car wreck," blah 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 blah, and that's how he's gonna get caught.
So he used to throw you off.
It threw me off.
So they find a well. They take a break, and Saul fantasizes about splitting the $7 million with Mike and building a time machine.
Right.
And, of course, Mike is like, okay, whatever. But he asked Mike, what would you do? Where would you go if you can go back in time? And at first he says December something of 2001. I'm assuming that's when his son was killed.
I would imagine so.
Probably.
Probably right.
But then he says, no, actually, March 17th, 1984, because that's the day I took my first bribe.
Damn.
Showing that he's regretted this entire life.
Well, I just love how, you'll see the breadcrumbs later, but, everyone is regretting everything that they did. But Saul, Jimmy, is the only one that really didn't have any regrets until, what happened.
Well, yeah, he didn't. Yeah, he struggled to clearly learn his lesson. So then Mike says he'd also go into the future to make sure that certain people were okay. Obviously his granddaughter. And maybe if he also didn't take that bribe, maybe his son, would still, who knows, right? Would still be alive.
Yeah, that's right.
So Saul says he would go back to May 10th, 1965, because that's the day that Warren Buffett took over at Berkshire Hathaway. He put all of his money into Berkshire, and then so that when he returns to the present, he'd be a billionaire. And Mike's like, "That's it, money, nothing you change." And then Saul says, "I'm rested," and he starts walking again. And it's like this whole. I mean, right up until the end, this show just swerves you, like Breaking Bad always did, and this show always did, because you're like, "Oh fuck," because I was going into this episode. I'm like, Saul's going to redeem himself in some way. But then when you see that opening scene, it's like, fuck, he's not redeeming himself, is he?
Right. They were doubling and tripling down on that, to make you want to hate Saul.
Right. Exactly.
Saul's been a lovable character.
So that maybe when he dies, we're like, yeah, he's dead, but
he probably deserved it.
I never really saw this character being killed or dying anyway. So, yeah, that's when I was like, oh shit, what the fuck? So back to where we left off, Saul gets in his car. He drives away, but Carol Burnett, Marion gives the police his license plate number, and then
she's amazing. No, I just love her. She's the nosiest person that you'll ever see. She's one of those ladies that's always peeking through the blinds.
Yeah.
She's great. She probably has notes all over her house of people that are doing shit.
Right.
It's great. I loved her.
The police are after him. They even got helicopters going after him. And he hides in a dumpster and pulls out the vacuum guy's card.
Right.
But of course, we know that actor's dead, so that's not going to happen. He opens a new phone, but it spills everywhere, all over the trash and everything. He starts picking up the pieces, but there's a knock on the dumpster. And when he opens it, there's 4 cops with their guns drawn on them.
That was amazing. Okay, before this, because you're still thinking that, there's going to be a chance where Jimmy and Kim are going to get together. So are you still thinking that Jimmy's going to find a way to get away? The police are going to just disband and he's going to hop out of the dumpster? Because I figured, I knew he was going to jail.
I thought about it, but I felt it was a little too preposterous at that point. But I did think about it. It crossed my mind. I don't know. Do we know how they knew he was in there? Was he just making too much noise?
I don't think he was making too much noise, but I think they were just starting to search. Because remember, there was a cop car that pulled off in the other direction. And I imagine there's a cop car that probably pulled off at the other end of the alley. And
but they were pretty confident.
Checking.
I mean, he like the cop sarcastically knocked. I mean, you wouldn't do that if you weren't sure. You would just open the dumpster and check. He was like, anyone in there?
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Saul's arrested, and he calls the Cinnabon. The first phone call, he calls the Cinnabon and tells the employee, "You're going to need a new manager." Which reminded me of Gus when Gus was shot by Lalo.
That's right. And
he calls. He's like, "You need to update the schedule." Blah blah blah.
I'll be back in a couple days.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, that was great.
So Saul starts losing his mind while they keep him locked away in a very small room for hours. We don't know how long, but it was.
I love it. He's circling back and forth, going, "This is how I got caught. This is how I got caught."
Well, he's like, "This is how they do it. Like this is how they get people to talk by putting them alone in a room for."
Is that what he was saying? Okay.
He's like, "This is how they do it. This is how they do it." Yeah. So Saul makes another phone call to Bill Oakley, who was formerly, was he the DA or just a prosecutor?
He was, I think he was an assistant DA.
But
yeah, he was the guy that always make deals with Saul.
Now he's the new Saul Goodman of Albuquerque, as we found out a few episodes ago. And Saul is transported back to Albuquerque, and that's where we see Hank's widow, Marie. And the prosecutors offer Saul a deal of 30 years. But Saul tells them, "Why don't you bring in Mr. Schrader's widow? She deserves to be here." So they bring her in, and Marie tells Saul, "They told me they found you in a garbage dumpster." Well, I guess that makes sense.
That's a good one.
Good,
Marie.
We realize this is like less than a year from the events of Breaking Bad.
Oh, has it been just a year?
Less than a year. Not even a year since like the final episode of Breaking Bad. Because he told Kim that because he told Kim it's been 6 years since they saw each other. So that means there was a 4-year gap. And then he meets Walter White 4 years after him and Kim break up.
That's okay. So
he told Marie when he starts telling the story, he says, 2 years ago, a man walked into my office.
That's right. Oh my! So he couldn't stay clean for 1 year.
No,
he couldn't stay clean for 1 year. He was going crazy as a Cinnabon guy.
Right.
That's
But also when the episode where he fools the security guard in the mall, when you looked up Urban Meyer, it was like, well, the latest it could be was 2010.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and that was somewhere around there, like 2010.
And Breaking Bad, the final year was 2010. So it was the same year.
That's right. Okay.
So Marie tells Saul about how great Hank and Steve Gomez were, and she says, "You helped the two-faced poisonous bastard behind it all, and for money, you did it all for money." And Saul tells Marie, "You and your husband are victims, and so am I." Again, like, just no heart on this guy. Her husband was murdered, and he just lies to her face.
This was his Emmy reel. This was great.
At first, it was, oh my God, of course. At first, he tells a version of the truth. He says, "Walter and Jesse kidnapped me, threatened to kill me." But then he says, "There hasn't been a minute that I wasn't afraid of him. I worked for him because I knew what he would do to me if I refused." He had 10 people killed in 3 different prisons.
Right.
And he also says, Walter White might be dead, but Jesse and the others could still be out there. And that's the first confirmation that Walter White is dead. In the final episode of Better Call Saul, we know that Walter White is dead. Didn't even confirm it in El Camino.
Hashtag Walter White is alive is officially over. It's officially over.
Hashtag Walter White. Hashtag Walter White is still alive is dead.
It confirmed dead.
As dead as Walter White.
And
that's the right decision, of course.
For sure.
We're just fanboys that,
don't want it to end, baby.
Even if it would jump the shark with Walter White it wouldn't make any fucking sense.
Right.
So the prosecutor says, "You think jurors are going to buy that?" Because no one believes his story. And Saul says, 1. All I need is 1.
And you get a hung jury, baby. That's all he needs. And he was terrified. I mean, Saul, with that story, of course he's going to turn one person.
Yeah,
Of course he is.
So the prosecutor, he's like, oh, Bill tells me you've never lost a case, but we'll see what happens with, juries. You never know. And the prosecutor starts to like soften up, and Marie notices, and she storms off as Saul asks for some wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
And Saul gets the prosecutor to agree to 7.5 years. He still got it. You still got it.
Not only 7.5 years. He had 19 different requests.
Yes.
19 different requests. He was going for number 20 until they laid that bombshell on him.
He was going to go to the Bernie Madoff prison that has a golf program. You remember the end of Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
He goes to jail and he's playing tennis in jail. Because if you have money and if you make the right deal and it has to be a nonviolent crime,
right?
Then you get to go to one of these nice prisons where it's basically just a condo.
It's summer camp for adults.
You have good food, you get to play tennis, and like you just can't leave. But it's like staying at a hotel forever. For as long as you're staying.
For as long as you're staying.
Agreed all that. But then Saul also, he gets cocky because he's Saul Goodman, and he demands to get 1 pint of Bluebell mint chocolate chip ice cream every Friday during the duration he's locked up.
Damn, that's the ice cream that he wants? Mint chocolate chip?
Well, it's, I guess, like Texas, Bluebell's popular in Texas. It's probably popular in New Mexico as well.
Oh, for sure. I'm just saying, mint chocolate chip, I would have won a totally different
mint chocolate chip. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of mint chocolate.
And for 7 straight years, I think you'd get old.
Well, that's his favorite.
It's his favorite, I guess.
I mean, did your favorite ice cream change in your life at all?
I also didn't eat it for 7 straight years, once a week.
No, I guess that's true.
When
you're in jail, you want something.
I would have asked for like a rotating shift of Bluebell ice cream.
Yeah. So they don't agree to the ice cream. So Saul offers to give info on Howard Hamlin's death, but they tell him, they start laughing. They're like, well, yeah, Kim Wexler already told us a month ago. And he's obviously shocked by that.
So this is where I was like, is this where he started to fuck over Kim? Or did he fuck over Kim when he was, agreeing to his deal? I don't know if that was ever made clear.
No, he was never fucking over Kim.
No?
Not really. Because he was just gonna tell them about like how Howard Hamlin died.
Okay.
The fucking over Kim was not real. That was him fucking with them. That we'll go back to. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
So then we go back to the Breaking Bad timeline where Saul and Walter are staying underground at the vacuum store, and classic Walt is always trying to fix something.
This reminded me of that Fly episode where he was just going batshit crazy. He's like, "Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Did you hear that? It was a spark. It was a click."
But that episode, but he's always doing that. He's always fixing shit in the house, and he's got dad mode going.
This was great. I loved it.
So Saul, it was really good. It was really good. Saul asked Walter, "What would you do if you had a time machine?" But that just infuriates Walter. He's like, "That's preposterous. This is what are you talking about? Stay in your lane." And he says, Just ask if I have any regrets. Leave this time travel thing out of it." And
right.
Walter
as the scientist,
Walter finally calms down and he tells Saul the gray matter story that he told Jesse in season 5 of Breaking Bad, where he's like, "You asked me if I was in the meth business. I'm in the empire business." So
second empire he built.
Yeah.
Technically,
so, I guess. Saul says, "You should have told me about this. Wrongful termination, intellectual property theft, patent fraud. I could have sunk my teeth into this." And Walt says, "You'd have been the last lawyer I have gone to."
I love that.
It's funny because like Walter, Jesse, and Mike, like they didn't know that he actually was a really good lawyer.
Right.
They
thought he was a joke for a long time.
like the retirement home case that he found all on his own.
Right.
The sandpiper thing. Like, yeah, it's like, no, you actually would want him if you actually would want him to be your lawyer.
Well, back when Jimmy was hungry and stuff like that, yeah, you probably would have. But Jimmy was, he was a shell of himself, I would imagine.
Not during Breaking Bad.
Maybe not shell of himself, but he was
still an excellent lawyer.
Still an excellent lawyer, but more of a character, I guess. And
sure. They thought he was a goofball.
Goofball, yeah.
Which he was, obviously. But
yeah.
So Walter asks about Saul's regrets, and Saul says he pulled a slip and fall when he was 22, but he actually hurt his knee, and it hasn't been the same ever since. And then Walter stands up and says, so you were always like this. Okay.
I lost my shit when he said that, because I was like, oh my God, Walter is like everyone in the audience. Oh, so you've always been an asshole.
Well, it's just like you've always been an egomaniac, like you never made a mistake in your life.
Right, but this is where I started to be like, you know what? Chuck, 100% right. Always stealing from the candy drawer. Yeah. Back in the day when he was a little kid.
Couldn't keep his hands out of the cash drawer. But not our Jimmy. Couldn't be precious Jimmy stealing them blind. And he gets to be a lawyer? What a sick joke. I should have stopped him when I had the chance. And you have to stop him. Yeah, one of the best scenes, obviously, in the show.
Oh, a little-known cameo comes up later from that scene.
That's true. Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
So, back to the present. Saul's being transported on a public plane. I didn't know they did this with
criminals. That might have been one of his 19 conditions.
I actually Googled it a bit, and apparently that happens sometimes if there's like other options.
I think it does, yeah.
But I like how they cover his handcuffs with all his chains with a jacket. So like, hopefully people don't notice, but it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So that's where Bill tells him that Howard's widow is planning to sue him in civil court. And that's where everything changes for Jimmy.
Right.
And he tells Bill that he has some new information that he wants to trade with not the DA, but the prosecutors.
Right. And in the hopes that it could, maybe arouse some curiosity and maybe get back to Kim too. So I think that might have been his plan.
Yeah, it was just it was just to get Kim to go to Albuquerque. That's all.
Right.
Because he wanted to see her.
It was elaborate because he didn't say anything like tell Kim. But he was hoping by making up this, elaborate ruse that it would get back to her. And, it did.
Yeah. So in Florida, Kim volunteers at a free legal office. And the assistant DA of Albuquerque calls her to tell her about Saul being arrested and that he's giving testimony that affects her.
Right.
And we don't know what that is yet. But everyone ends up in the Albuquerque court for the United States versus Saul Goodman. And all of this is just for the judge to review the plea bargain and then approve it.
I got to say two things. First, this was the last time we got to see Saul. You don't get to see the fancy suit because it's black and white.
Right. Yes.
But he was all decked out. And you could tell
he had a Saul Goodman suit for sure.
A Saul Goodman suit. But did you hear the song choice that was playing underneath his walk into the court?
No.
So this was someone's cameo of an Elvis song called "Only Believe," and the lyrics are, "Lordy, only believe, all things are possible if you only believe."
Okay.
You have to believe that Jimmy's gonna make a turn. I think that's what this is saying.
Maybe.
But
yeah, he's in his suit and he sits there, and just like he said in the pilot episode, it's showtime.
Yeah.
And it certainly was.
Callback.
Saul has Bill as his advisory counsel. He chose to represent himself. And
poor Bill.
First, the judge asked the prosecutor about the generous deal that they made. And Bill writes Saul a note that says, "Don't worry. She always accepts these deals."
Right.
But Saul interrupts and convinces the judge to let him speak. And at first, Saul tells the judge the same sob story about Walter White that he told the prosecutors. And it's once again completely swerving the audience because they're showing the prosecutors They're showing Marie,
like,
and they're showing,
no.
and they're all like, "Oh, here he goes with this bullshit." Like it's not even necessary at this point.
Right. He's like thumbing his nose almost at them.
Yeah, that's what they thought. But after he mentions the kidnapping, he ditches the sob story and tells the truth that he helped Walter White build his empire.
I loved it. He couldn't have done anything without me. Walter White would be dead in a ditch in 2 weeks without me. Without me.
Probably true. I mean, that's probably true as well.
Probably true. Yeah. Same with Aaron Paul.
Yeah, maybe. So the judge tells Saul, you're contradicting your statement and all that. And he also says he lied to the government about Kim's involvement in Howard's murder because he just wanted her to come here. So I guess he told them that like she had like that she had something like even worse to do with Howard's death because they already know what Kim said. So he must have been like, oh no, it's way worse than that.
Or maybe she lied about her involvement.
Yeah.
She was actually the one that pulled the trigger type of thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So Saul tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth while under oath. And Walter White wouldn't have done it without me. And then Saul looks at Kim, and she's still not satisfied yet. He just wants her approval at this point. Like, he's just stop hating me, please. And he looks at her. She's still not satisfied. And then he talks about Chuck. And he mentions Chuck, and then they did a special camera shot just for him with the exit sign in the foreground with the electricity. That was fucking great.
That was great. Awesome callback.
So Saul admits to screwing up Chuck's career and, basically causing Chuck to commit suicide.
Right.
And then finally, when the judge says, all right, you're done, sit down, Mr. Goodman, he says, McGill, I'm James McGill.
Oh, that's a full face turn.
Full face turn. My God. Then Jimmy looks at Kim in the back of the court, and Kim does her best to hold back a smile, but you can see like it's just barely there.
Right.
It's like, oh my God. I thought the last episode was the waterworks, but I was wrong. So back to season 1. We have Jimmy bringing Chuck some groceries. This felt just like I was like, did they just play like a scene from season 1, or is this a new scene
or deleted scene or something like that?
Yeah. Like it felt just like the same scenes from season 1 where he brings them
for
food.
Sure. Yeah, it could have fit in there at any time.
Chuck tells Jimmy, if you don't like where you're headed, you could always change it. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy asks Chuck, when have you ever changed your path? And he leaves. And then we see that Chuck was reading a time machine novel.
Right. Great. Great. The writing, this whole episode was just a masterpiece. Everything flowed so well.
Right. So back to the present, Jimmy is being transported on a prison bus, and he's not going to the golf prison anymore, that's for sure. You notice right away that he's with some, hard inmates.
Right.
This first giant guy turns around, and Jimmy's like sweating. He's like, oh God, this is going to be rough. And all the prisoners on the bus recognize him, and they start loudly chanting Better Call Saul. So I was like, well, at least he won't be raped in prison.
I'll be honest, I let out a big smile and I laughed. I was like, you know what? In prison, Jimmy's going to have it all right. He finally turned his life around. He's not going to be an asshole, and he's not going to have his asshole raped. So it's a good deal for Jimmy.
So I don't know how long he was in prison for. We don't know, but he gets a visitor, and it's Kim. Mm-hmm. And he's like, how? And she's like, it turns out my New Mexico bar card doesn't have an expiration date.
Oh, so
and
great.
Kim looks, she makes sure that no one's watching them. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, are they about to fuck? Or just like
I want him to get together so bad.
Start making out or something. I was like, why is she making sure no one's watching?
Right.
Fuck him right in there. You know what I mean? But no, that doesn't happen. That would be ridiculous. I was just, like I said before, I was hoping for a happy ending between these two, but of course it's the Breaking Bad universe. No one gets a happy ending.
Well, you just wanted to see color pop back on the screen.
Yeah, I guess in the end, Jesse got a happy ending, as far as we know.
Potentially, I think it got mauled by a grizzly bear, probably in Alaska.
So she makes sure no one's watching, and they share a cigarette while leaning against a wall.
Just like when they were at Hamlin
So many
McGill.
Yeah. And Kim says you had it down to 7 years. And Jimmy
says,
she
was impressed, kind of.
Yeah, I did. And then she says 86 years. And she knows. She knows why. But Jimmy says, but with good behavior, who knows? And Kim laughs. Because, of course, he's going to die there.
Probably.
But
he's going to live like a king.
And then the hardest part was the final shot. Saul watching Kim leave from behind the gate while the other guys are playing basketball. He gives her the finger guns that she gave him once upon a time.
Tugging at the heartstrings.
And then that's it. You see her point of view. Like it's the camera shot of Saul watching her, and then eventually you don't see him anymore.
Yeah.
And the show ends.
Saul gone.
It's all gone. It's all gone.
This was a really, really good way to end it. Saul didn't die, and he's probably gonna have an all right life in a supermax prison.
Well,
a better life than you can.
The only person that actually did any time for any of these Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of saying in the last episode. I was like, you have to have someone going to jail. None of these motherfuckers can not escape jail time with all the shit that they did. Everyone has either died or, in Jesse's case, gotten killed by a grizzly bear or something like that. You have to have someone to pay the toll. And Saul, he kind of bit the bullet for everybody.
Well, everyone else died. Jesse got a happy ending. Everyone else died. So, Saul was the one that went to prison. And, man, that was rough. Yeah. I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried at the end of that. The end, seeing him just stand there as she walked away.
I didn't cry, but I was super sad, and it was really, really sad. But a really, really good end. Really good end.
It was.
Yeah.
So why did Saul do the right thing?
Because he didn't want to be an asshole. And I think this was the way for the Howard's wife not to sue Kim, taking the legal responsibility away from Kim.
Jimmy's only cared about two people, Chuck, until he was done with him.
Right.
But really, it's been Kim this all along.
It's Kim, always pretty much.
Kim. My original feeling was that he did all, because as soon as he finds out Kim's going to get sued, that's when the plan changes.
Right.
But in the interview with Peter Gould, he said that that's not why he did it.
Oh.
But it's also, I think he just wanted Kim to not hate him anymore.
That could be it too.
Kim wanted me to do the right thing, and I'm going to do the right, because again, every time when he was giving his new sworn statement or whatever in front of the judge, when he was telling the truth, he kept looking back. She's not smiling yet.
Did I do it yet? Did I do it?
She's not smiling. And then when he finally mentions Chuck, and he got everything out in the open. He looks back, and then she starts to smile. He just wanted her to not hate him anymore.
I could see that, especially with, I guess, how upset he was in the phone booth, knowing that she probably did have some feeling of resentment towards him. He got away technically.
They still love each other.
Still not sorry.
She still loves him, but she knows they can't be together. Obviously, she doesn't like who he's become, but he finally owned up to it and paid the price. And really, he went to jail for the rest of his life because he loves Kim. So the moral of the story is never love anyone.
Wait, so was Better Call Saul a love story all along?
Absolutely. Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it,
yeah.
In the end, that's the last thing. That's
Pretty
the
much.
last thing. And you know, Saul's an optimistic guy. I mean, even in jail, he's still like, you know, that's fine. I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's certainly going to be fine. You saw the people kind of respected him. Hey, I got you, Saul.
Yeah, sure, you'll be fine in jail.
Right.
In a jail eating shitty food on a shitty bed the rest of your life. All that just so that Kim doesn't hate him anymore.
Love is a strange thing, Andrew.
It sure is.
Yeah.
So, what a show.
I know that we said that we were going to do our top 5 villains in the next upcoming episode, but I think we really should do our top 5 Better Call Saul episodes.
Better Call Saul episodes.
Yeah.
We could do both.
We can do both?
We'll do the movie villains for everyone else. They could all put in there, and we could throw those in there. I mean, the Waterworks is in the top 5. This is probably in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
The episode where he gets Chuck to go crazy with the monologue I did earlier.
Chicanery, right?
Chicanery. Yeah. That's in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I mean,
but then you got or maybe the top 5 scenes.
Well, no, you said episodes.
Episodes, because then you got Nacho's death. Nacho's death was amazing.
Mike and Jimmy in the desert was great.
I think there's better ones.
I mean, the episode this season of Lalo going to Germany and doing all that stuff was so fucking great too.
You love that? I did. It was fine. I didn't love that so much. But yeah. I mean, this is. I just want to talk about this universe more.
Yeah, you don't want to let go.
No,
you don't want to let go.
It's a child I don't want to let go of.
We do have some fan questions and comments.
Oh shit! Okay, wow, already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve the Don Volante just said, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" All right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Dibburn says, "This hasn't been a lawyer. There hasn't been a lawyer show in over a decade. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I was thrilled to see some actual lawyer maneuvering back on the show." Question: either of you been to jail?
Yes.
I have not been to jail because I'm a good
boy.
But Josh has, apparently.
Twice.
And for what?
Stupid reasons.
Stupid reasons.
Stupid reasons.
So I guess if Josh had a time machine, you'd know what he'd use it for.
Yeah. But I've been jail free for almost 2 decades.
Okay, great.
No, yeah, decade and a half.
Uh-huh. Jake Baker, would you personally call Saul if you needed a lawyer?
Yeah, I would.
I think it depends on what you did, but certainly if it's a criminal offense, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Balls Mahoney, I guess he didn't like it. He said mid finale disappointing.
Really?
I wholeheartedly disagree.
Yeah, this had so many callbacks and cameos and just Jimmy's performance or Bob Odenkirk's performance twice in this episode in 2 different versions of the same story. I mean, this was a great Bob Odenkirk episode.
Oh, Steve the Don Valente had a question. If you had a time machine, what would you change?
Well, you know what? There was this chick in high school who asked me to a Sadie Hawkins dance, and I turned her down because she was too tall. And I should have never turned her down.
Too tall?
Too tall.
I thought you liked the tall ones.
Listen, I was had a lot of problems back in the day, okay?
So I'll be Mike in this situation. Be like, that's it. Sex.
Fuck yeah.
Sex.
I could have been married.
Josh hasn't learned his lesson. Josh hasn't learned his lesson yet.
No, what you should have been was like should have been like Walter. Oh, so you're just always like this?
Yeah, you've always been this way. Hey, you go back. You get this week's lotto numbers, and then you go back a week. That's what you do.
Oh, so it's just about money, Andrew?
No, there's a couple of regrets I have, but they're a little too personal to mention on a podcast.
Oh, I mentioned the Sadie. That's personal.
That's nothing. Get out of here.
That's about love. That's about young love.
Fine, I'll give one. I'll give one. I play football in high school.
Oh, you didn't play football.
I joined. I was on the football team sophomore year, but I was 5'4".
Okay.
I didn't hit puberty till the second half of my junior year. That's when I got tall, and that's when all of a sudden I got pretty good at throwing the football. And Clemens was so bad until Derek Carr showed up that I think if I stuck it out by senior year, I could have been, I mean, at least I could have been playing, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I've thought about that a few times. Like, what if I actually played football in high school, and then maybe I could have played in college as something. Who knows, right? You never know.
If we're going for a
Pretty confident on my quarterback abilities.
If we're going for a real regret of mine outside of the Sadie Hawkins dance, I wholeheartedly regret that I never made Eagle Scout. I quit at Life Scout, and I 100% always wish I would have finished it. I was so close to finishing, but I just didn't. Right. That's probably my biggest regret, to be honest.
Okay. Eagle Scout. Pop Culture Junkie, what series would you like to see have a Better Call Saul type prequel show, such as Seinfeld, The Office? I don't know about either of those shows.
What would Seinfeld prequel be?
I don't think Seinfeld works without all of them together.
Right.
But I'm trying to think other dramas.
Oh, so anything, not just those two.
No. He says any show. Any show. You know what? Rick and Shane from Walking Dead before the outbreak.
Oh, yeah. Rick and Shane, the police cops?
Police cops.
Why did I say police cops?
That's like, no, there's a Simpsons episode where there's a show called Police Cops.
Oh, yes, sir.
And they're like, they go, it's the cops. And he goes, worse, the police cops. It's just so stupid.
That would have been a good show. Rick and Shane as police in Alabama, Georgia.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Kyle Foxton, that scene with Walt made me look at the end of Breaking Bad in a new way. It was his one regret with how he squeezed out of gray matter, and then he sees them on TV saying he didn't contribute much, leading to him going out of the way he did rather than turning himself in. Just a great use of a guest appearance. It's true because he even told Saul that gray matter was founded on discoveries he made. Yeah,
very true. Wait, so Walter got pretty good
but good cameo. He also told that to Gretchen in like season 1 of Breaking Bad. So we've known this.
Yeah.
But it was
like when you think of it, like I guess Jesse's cameo was kind of really just wasted.
No, I liked it.
But I mean, it really, I like
that he interacted with, like, Kim actually interacted with other people in Breaking Bad, like Jesse. I like that scene.
I guess okay. Yeah, I can see
I thought the first scene with them and Saul in the RV, I didn't feel like that really served much of a purpose, but it was still. I still like the scene. I just,
right.
I think it was just to reintroduce them to this, show.
Like, instead of having them just
going to be in a couple scenes.
Yeah.
The Rizzler, not sure. And also, I mean, he did mention the kidnapping in the final episode. So yeah, it was good that they showed us all that again.
Makes sense.
Because if you haven't watched Breaking Bad, then you haven't seen that since 2009.
Right.
Season 2.
Yeah.
The Rizzler, not sure about you guys, but I'm keeping my mouth shut and taking the 7 years.
He's obviously never been in love, Rizzler.
You're not in love.
Love makes you do crazy shit.
It sure does.
I once drove across the country.
Shut up. That was not love. Omar.
That was more lust, I guess.
When Jimmy and not even, you didn't do anything. When Jimmy and Kim share that cigarette, you see the tip is in color. I did notice that. Like when she flipped the lighter, like the fire was color there, and when the cigarette was lit, there was color there.
The little bits of orange.
Omar says to me, that's a little spark of love that they still
have. That's so sweet.
A little spark of love that they still have for each other. Omar.
Wow, that's great. Omar, I love it. That's great.
Omar. Wow, Omar.
Yeah, that's really fucking deep.
I think you're right.
Vince Gillian's just gonna go, no, that's not it. We couldn't figure out how to get the orange out.
No. I can turn everything black and white with a click of a button. It's not hard.
Oh, that's an opportunity. Turn this black.
No, fuck off. I don't listen to you. But yeah, it's easy.
And unblack.
Shut up. Unblack. It's black and white, you fool. Anyways, that is all the questions and comments we have. I don't want to stop. I don't want to let it go.
Well, we're not going to let it go because
I don't want to let it go.
What the next podcast we're going to be talking about our favorite. Oh, maybe not. It's just our favorite memories.
Yeah,
just our favorite memories. We got to give one more send off to the greatest universe that has probably been in TV for a long time.
Ever.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time grasping what could be better. I don't know if a
coworker told me in 2012 or 2013, whenever I started watching Breaking Bad, he said, Breaking Bad's the best show ever.
Mm-hmm.
And he was right. I agreed with him after I watched Breaking Bad. I said, you're right. It's the best show ever.
Yeah.
It's probably the best media ever, better than any movie, really. Because if a TV show is good, like, it's actually easier to make a good TV show than a good movie, because a good movie, you have 2 or 3 hours max to tell an entire story.
Right.
A TV show, you have, what was Breaking Bad? 80 episodes? I mean, you have,
something like that.
80 hours to tell a story. So,
and to keep it interesting and keep everything making sense for that long, it's quite difficult.
So Breaking Bad's the best show ever, and I think Better Call Saul is the second best show ever, in my opinion.
Probably. I'm hard pressed to find anything
also
better.
Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. That was pretty good too. I love that show. That was that show is hilarious.
Is that the one you watch with Aaron all the time?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. That's pretty funny.
It's so fucking funny. But yeah, so the top 3 right there. Yeah.
That's a crazy top 3.
No, it's so much fun watching that show. I need to watch that show after this shit.
Oh yeah, I need to laugh.
You
need to laugh at people falling into the water.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
I guess there's nothing left to say. Thank you, Vince Gilligan. Thank you, Peter Gould. Thank you to all the actors and everyone that worked on these shows. Damn. Didn't think television could be that good.
Finger gun salute.
Finger gun. All right. Well, I think that that about wraps it up. Thank you, everyone, watching this or listening, going on this journey together.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll have to revisit this.
Hey, like Vince Gilligan said, if everything he does fails, then he'll come back to it, do something else.
The Salamanca story needs to be told.
You could, you certainly could. Yeah. Also, Bob Odenkirk is starring in a show on AMC.
I did
and Giancarlo Esposito has his own show on AMC that's coming. They said that. They're like, don't worry, they might Saul and Gus might be leaving, but Bob Odenkirk and Esposito aren't, so.
I love that. That was pretty funny. I was like, hey, this is the perfect time to plug your shit.
Yeah. So thanks for watching this bonus episode, and we'll see you next week where we're going to be reviewing She-Hulk and House of the Dragon.
Yep.
It's going to be
a sad night.
It's going to be a sad. It already is. Yeah. Good night, everybody.